Hello and welcome back to my basement. This is Jeremiah Wolf, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the PCEP entry-level Python certification. I just passed it this morning. So I'm going to talk about why I'm studying Python as someone who's working toward my CCIE. Why do I need to know Python? I'm going to show you a little bit about that. We're going to talk about my results and experience with the exam today. And then I'm going to show you what I use to study. And we'll try to keep it all around 10-15 minutes because I know I like to go long. So let's get right into it here. Switch over to my web browser. And what's the first thing I want to show you here? So here's the CCIE Enterprise Infrastructure, which is the CCIE that I am working toward. Here's the exam topics, and under section 5, automation and programmability, Python is mentioned several times. And so Python CLI module, EEM module, and then working with Python. So this would be on box. This would be off box. So this is going to be used to manage the device from an external device, and this is going to be used to manage the device from itself. Now this is actually important, and I will be the first to admit, please understand, I am not 100% clear on this. I have a lot more to figure out with this, and I think it's going to be confusing until I can really find the time to dig into the hands-on aspects of this. It's just one of these like chicken and egg things. In learning this, where do I start? So I'm starting with just learning some Python. I thought it'd be fun. And after what I have been studying, I could use a little bit of fun. So let's take a look at this just a little bit more in depth real quick. So it's important to understand the software version that we're going to be using. So for the CSRs, we have 16.12, and then for the Catalyst 9300 16.12. Why is that important? Because we need to understand that in 16.12 we have the on-box Python, and the guest shell is Python version 2.7. Version 2.7. So if you're new to Python, you basically have version 2 and version 3. And there are some very significant differences between the two. And then as I understand it, even within version 3, there's some pretty significant differences as 3 has evolved. I think we're on 3.8 right now. So this is definitely going to impact how you study, and it really was confusing for me, and it still is very confusing for me. I'm not 100% sure where I should be putting all my time and energy. Now, the differences are relatively easy. I think, so I've been looking at some websites, pages comparing the differences between 2.7 and 3.x, and it's not, I think it should be okay. And then also to help improve things or make it easier, there is an, it's called future _ future _ I guess it's a library. I don't know what you call it, but it kind of updates certain aspects of 2.7 to use the version 3 versions of those things. So having looked at all that, I feel like it's probably best to learn version 3. If I need to, I can use the future library. Again, I don't know what it's called. And that should get me close enough. And then, when I do some hands-on, if I need to be aware of some differences, I'll try to keep that in mind. So that's why I'm studying Python in preparation for my CCIE. It is part of the test. And again, you have to be able to do the use Python to interact with the CLI, to interact with the EEM, which is the Cisco's Event Manager. And then you're also going to need to basically use APIs to communicate with boxes and get data or configure or whatever through some other external source. So again, all this stuff you can definitely use version 3. Here's the difficulty, the confusion is version 2.7. Now some of the research I've done, it looks like you can in fact upgrade your Python version on box to version 3. But I don't know if we're going to be able to do that in the lab exam. I don't know. So hence why I am spending so much time and energy trying to understand this 2.7. So let's move on from here. I took the exam this morning. So let's talk about it real quick. The exam, the PCEP, is offered by the Python Institute. This is their entry-level certification. It's a very basic certification, and I'm not stopping here. This was just kind of like I figured, hey, I learned the material on my way to actually what I want to learn, so I might as well take the certification. If you've watched my videos, you know I always say that if you got to learn the material anyway, hey, you might as well get the certification, if you can afford it. This was $60 for this exam. I figured, heck, I might as well do it. So this is the entry level. Now I'm going to start working on more Python, and I will probably, right now I'm at 80%, likelihood going to do the associate level. I figure, again, I might as well do it if I got to learn this stuff. So I'm probably going to do the associate level. I'm not sure when. It kind of depends on when I can schedule the exam, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, okay, so here, if you want to get more information about this, pythoninstitute.org will give you more information about the certifications. And from this page on the pythoninstitute.org, if you come down here to the exam information, it tells you all about the exam. It also has a link to the course aligned with this exam. Here it is. Programming Fundamentals, I don't know what I just said. Programming Fundamentals in Python Part 1, and that is often by OpenEDG. So let's take a look over here. OpenEDG. Go to their website. It's free to register. The course is free. And we'll just look at the details here. Is that what I wanted? Dashboard, that's what I wanted. So there's 4 modules. They say that this is a roughly 42-hour-long course. In fact, if you look at it, sorry to do that to you, it says 42 hours, suggested 7 hours a week. So they're saying this is a, what is that, 6-hour course, or 6-week course. At 7 hours per week. Module 1 totally blew through that. Module 2 was relatively quick. 3 and 4 took me a little over. I think I did 3. I don't know. I forget. But in total, it was probably for me, including all the labs and everything, 16. Maybe 20 hours. I'm thinking that's about right. Because I started on Wednesday. So I did Wednesday, Thursday. I took Friday off, and I did Saturday and Sunday. And I spent a lot of time each day doing it. So probably like 20 hours it took me to get through here. And then today I took the final. Actually, today I did the quiz. Module 4 quiz, then I did the Module 4 test, then I did the summary test for the whole thing, which interestingly is the exact same score I got on the actual exam. Was there anything I needed to block out here? Doesn't look like it. Oh, there's my email. Well, don't email me. Anyway, so my score 87%, and here's how I did. I gotta say, so here's the thing, like when I'm taking a Cisco test, there's no doubt in my mind where my failings are. Like I know based on the question and how easy it is for me to answer the question where my failings are. When I was done with this, I was sure I was in the 90%. So I missed 4 questions. It's only 30 questions long. So I missed 4 questions to get an 87%, which, is fine. I passed, but I didn't feel good about that. I wanted to do much better. And like here, I got 67% in data type evaluations and basic IO. Like, what? That's really bad. But I don't know I have no idea what I got wrong, because as I was going through it, I thought I was right. And here's the thing that kind of really, if there's one negative thing about this entire process, is that these tests, these end of module tests, they don't tell you what you got right or wrong. They give you a score, but you can't actually see what you got wrong. So you don't know where you're lacking, which is, and same thing with the summary test. I took the test. I had no idea where I was lacking, which is, to me, absurd. Why would you not show someone, hey, here's where you're not getting the answers? go study this some more. Like that's just to me is really weird. And then, to like look at this and be like, oh, okay, so like I have no idea. Like, what does that mean? Like, where am I supposed to study? So I don't know. That kind of annoys me. I'm hoping that I can figure out what I'm getting wrong as I move forward. But let's talk about how I studied for this. So I started off reading this book, Introducing Python. I like the book. It's well written. The examples are good. It makes sense. It's an enjoyable read. It's like a cross between a textbook and a reference book. It's a little bit, I'd say like maybe 60% textbook, 70%, or excuse me, 40, so 60% textbook and like 40% reference. Just the way that it's written, it's just like, here's this method, here's this method, here's this method, here's an example, here's this method, here's an example. Like, so it just kind of like takes, okay, here's all the list functions and methods. Here's all the string functions and methods. Instead of being like, okay, here's a little sprinkling of this and a little sprinkling of that. And then now we're going to build on what you've already know in the next chapter. And we build it up and build it up and build it up. It's just like, boom, here's all this. Boom, here's all that. So I liked the book. I only made it about a third of the way through before I ended up switching to this online course, which I was initially unaware of. I was also doing the CBT Nuggets Python course. And let's see here. Does it tell me? Let's go to the course.
Which you might have guessed.
So this is it's a pretty short course. It's only 9 hours. I did about half of it, 45% complete. However, I just got to say, I didn't care for this course really at all. And here's the thing, a couple of things. First off, when you start the course, the gentleman who's teaching it makes it very clear, this is a course on Python 2. I'm not sure exactly which version, maybe 2.5? I forget. But he makes it very clear. And that kind of frustrated me right out of the gate because while I do need to know potentially need to know version 2 for some Cisco stuff, most of the world is really on 3, and everything I could find says if you're starting from scratch, start with 3. There's no reason to start with 2 unless you are supporting some existing project that is written in 2. Whatever. So that kind of turned me off initially. And I was kind of, every time as we're going through this, I was a little bit like, well, what is different? I don't know what's different, so I don't know like if I'm actually hurting myself by watching this. And then we got down to this PyQt, I think it's pronounced PyQt, which I think is for doing GUIs. And that's where I stopped because I started looking into it, and it made a big difference between which version of Python you were using. So, most of this stuff up until that point was going to be, I could pretty much be okay using, or it wouldn't be too hard to update myself to the version 3 stuff. But once we started getting into this Qt stuff, I thought, okay, or Qt, however you pronounce it. I was like, well, there's some big differences. So I don't know. And that's when I just said, I'm done with this. And I will say, like, this is, again, I keep saying this with all these tests I've been doing. Like, I like the CBT Nuggets, and I have a hard time giving them a bad review because the people seem so genuine. But I just don't know how much I really learned from them. Their methodology is just like, it's basically like, make it quick, make it upbeat, and make it quick. And then so you're just like boom, 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 moving from topic to topic. So as a learner, it's not as boring as other video things. And I hate lecture. I hate video lessons. That's just not how I learn. So, I don't know. I'm just going to come out and say I didn't like it. I don't recommend it. Don't do the CBT Nuggets. There's plenty of other stuff. IP Pro TV. I was thinking about using them for this, and honestly, I should have done that. So I started off with this book, and then when I wasn't happy with those things, I was doing some more research, and I eventually stumbled upon this course. So in here. This course was, in my opinion, generally very good. One thing, a couple things I like about it, it's all text, so you're just going to read the page, but it's presented very well. Most things, 95% of it is presented very well. There's a few things where the wording is a little ambiguous, and I wasn't quite sure what they meant by that, and so I might have not gotten the point that they were trying to make. There's also tons of labs and code examples that you can play with. They have a built-in little code editor that you can try things and run. I also spent a lot of time using, what's it called? Visual Studio Code. If you're not familiar, it's a great tool for writing, scripting or writing code. It's really nice. It's worth taking the time. I need to learn it better. I've used it now for a couple years, or well, at least well over a year, but I've never bothered to actually like really learn it. I know it's a lot more powerful than what I'm doing with it, but it's also just a nice, simple editor. And then since we're talking about, so this is the final. This is the final lab. It was making a little tic-tac-toe game. So I went through and I spent a lot of time on this because I really tried to make it as efficient as possible. If I just brute forced it, I probably could have done it in about half the time, but I was trying to use a lot of loops and think about, the variables and how I was using them and how I could just be efficient about my code. It's one thing that because I do have a little, like years and years and long time ago, I have a very little bit of like formal coding training. And so that was kind of grilled into me early on. And it's something I've sort of always tried to do when I can. But now here's something that's fun. Well, let me just show it to you real quick. So it's very, very simple. This is the final lab again. Why is it doing that? So it prints out the board. The user says what space they want. The computer picks. And I win. Yay. Congratulations, you win. Okay, so that's it. Now here's something that's kind of funny. I don't know if I just suck at Python because this whole thing, so this little tiny tic-tac-toe game is 132 lines of code, and I have very, very little documentation in here. By comparison, one of the last projects I worked on before leaving IT and starting my own business was I wrote a tool that would, now again, I'm not a coder. I'm just like a hobby level scripter. Like I taught myself BASIC when I was like 10 or 12, it's like 12 years old. And, I learned a little bit of Pascal back in the day and, learned a little bit of C. And so I still use C every now and then for hobby electronics, for Arduino, stuff like that. And then when I ran for my business, I had, I spent a lot of effort on my website. So I definitely had to learn some PHP and some JavaScript. And far from an expert, my code was always ugly, but it worked. That's kind of always been where I've at. I'm not a good coder, but I get it done with what I need to do. And I will say that one of the things that I've always enjoyed about coding is that it has really helped my career because so few back in the day before I left IT, well today it's different. You look at the CCIE, you have to know how to code. Even most CCIEs didn't know a whole lot of coding, if any at all, back in the day. So it was definitely a way that I could distinguish myself in my career because I was comfortable coding and scripting and automating things even before those were the buzzwords. I was able to set myself apart, and I did some things for companies that really saved them a ton of money by being able to automate things, and that definitely helped me. But anyway, so one of the last projects I did was this Perl, just a Perl script that would basically walk all the switches in our network, and there was Cisco and Juniper switches, and it would gather up all the VLANs on each interface and then kind of built a little map. It would put all that information. There was two pieces. This is the first part that would get all that information and put it in a database. And there was a second part which might be built into here. I forget. It's been literally 10 years since I touched this thing. 2000. 13. The very early 2013 was the last time I worked on it. So 7.5 years since I worked on it. But anyway, it would walk through the network and it would get all the VLANs, and then when you would query the database, it would gather up all that information and give it to you in a almost like a little map, so you could tell where the VLAN went through the network. So it was very handy. But what's funny is, so again, tic-tac-toe, 130 lines of code, all that stuff of and this used SNMP, so it communicate with SNMP, get this data. It was raw data that I then had to do all this binary and hex math on, translate it, put it into a database, pull it back out of the database, parse it to make it look pretty, and all of that I did in not even 3 times the amount of code. So yeah, like it's kind of funny. I don't know if this is just really bad or if I was much more efficient back then. I don't know. Okay, so that's where we're at. Now, what's next? Next is, if we come back to here, I'm going to continue on with part 2. This is another 42-hour course. I'm hoping I can also do this one in about 20-ish hours, get it done this week. And with this done, it should prepare me for the next certification, the associate level certification. And then I definitely need to learn working with RESTful APIs, because that's part of the CCIE. So I'm definitely going to be doing this one. This is only a 20-hour course. So again, I'm hoping that means more like 10. And then I'm not sure. We'll see if I feel like I need it. There's a file processing course that has to do with opening and writing to files, accessing databases, stuff like that, which will probably come in handy. I don't know if I need it for the IE, but it's probably going to be worth knowing. So I'm probably going to do all of these. So this is probably 2, maybe more weeks more of studying, just doing this stuff. So the associate level test is handled through Pearson. So, and then very important. If you finish both of these courses, and again, all this is free. If you finish both of these, the Essentials Part 1 and Part 2, you get a voucher for half off of the associate exam. So that saves you like $150. So it's probably worth doing, since you have to learn this stuff anyway. So that's where we're at. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I hope you got something out of it. And if you're studying Python, good luck. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts. And if you have experience, especially, hey, listen, if you have experience with the Cisco on-box, off-box stuff, and, what do I need to know in version 2.7? I want to hear I'm open to sage advice. I posted on Reddit and got a little bit of information that was helpful, got me kind of looking in the right direction. But if anybody has any real experience that they could share, I would be very interested. Okay, hey, I'll see you in the next one.